following show is a paid program.
Hey family, how you doing today? We have the best in the building today. We have Mr. Sugar Ray with us, founder and CEO of Business Books Mastermind program, and he helps authors become Amazon #1 bestsellers. And he's one also. Hey friend, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Shout out to Mr. Nolan Davis for putting us together.
Yes,
and
sir.
I tell you what, it's been a great ride just even knowing you and finding out everything about you. How did you get started?
Oh man, it's a long story. I'll give you the extended version.
The elevator version.
the elevator version, okay. So started it goes back to 2010 when I first started speaking.
Yeah.
When I first started speaking, I was working South by Southwest. One of my friends walked by and he's passing out this marketing material, says, it's a lot of things. And at the very bottom, it says motivational speaker.
Right.
Now, I had already been practicing, planning, preparing, or whatnot. So I tracked him down. I ran him down. I said, hey, bro, I said, right here on your flyer, it says motivational speaker. How do I get in? And he said, I tell you what. He said, I have an engagement on Thursday at the JJAP. JJAP is the Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. And he said, I'll give you 10 minutes. I have an hour-long presentation. In that 10 minutes, that actually opened me up to what I do now. And here's why. After that presentation, he said, man, you said you're a great speaker. And my friend's name is now my mentor, Saul Paul. So I got to salute, Saul Paul. Give me shout outs. But he asked me, he said, do you have anything that you can leave behind with the audience? I said, what do you mean? He said, you have any training DVDs? You have any CDs? Any marketing materials? I said, this is my first engagement. I don't know nothing about that.
Right.
He said, well, you got to have something. He said, do you write? I said, yeah, I write poetry. I can write a poem and leave it. And I'm excited. And he just chuckled at me. And I'm like, just gonna do me like that. So I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I can write a book. I'll have it done in 2 weeks. And for all my authors out there, y'all know why the response that I got next was what I got. He, again, just laughed at me. He just chuckled. And so that 2 weeks actually turned into 5 years.
Wow.
5 years is what it took me to write my first book. But here's how the story develops. Once I opened my first box of books, I'm sitting across from this young 7-year-old. 7-year-old looks up at me and he says, Dad, he says, when I get older, I want to be an author and a speaker too. And so 2 years later, we actually published my son's first book, Zayden's Awesome Adventures, which is available, small plug, it's available everywhere, Amazon, Lulu.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com. You look for it, it's out there. And the next year, after we published his first book, we took him on his first book signing tour. Just a small.
Wait a minute. How old is he now? How old was he at that time?
He was 10 years old when we took him on his first book tour.
10 years, he's on his first book tour.
On his first book tour. Yeah, for his own book. And it was a small tour, but it was big to him.
Right.
Right. Took him to a few stores in Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. The last stop was here in Houston. And so the people that came and watched him do his book signings were just amazed. There were older people who were like, how old are you again?
Right.
And he's like, I'm 10. And just with this confidence that's exuding from him. And, one 17-year-old girl, she here in Houston, she went, she looked, and she looked around the corner. And then she looked again, she looked around the corner. She went and got her parents and then came back and bought 2 books from him and was like, this is amazing that you are so young.
Yes.
Now I want to write a book. But it doesn't stop there. The next year, we took him on he had his first paid speaking engagement. So at the age of 11, he's already been a paid speaker. Fast forward a little bit more, I'm doing youth programs, and I'm at a high school. While I'm at the high school, one of the young ladies, Tiara White, says that she wants to be an author. So I always ask the question. A few weeks later, I asked the same question. So what do y'all want to do, when you get older? I want to be an author, sir. Okay. Next month, same question. So it's Thanksgiving break. I said, here's a question for you. I said, if I tell you how to get your book done, will you follow it step by step? And just like as she's texting back, it's just in all caps. Yes.
Yes.
3 months later, March 7th, 2018, she published her first book.
Wow.
Had her book signing at her high school. So all of the people at her school had a chance to come out and support her, buy books from her. It was in the local paper, whatnot. And so people started asking me, how do I write a book? How do I write a book? And at this point, I was on book number 3, getting ready to publish book number 4. And so I started helping people. Now we publish close to 100 authors.
Right.
The last 19 books that we've launched have all launched #1 on Amazon.
Right.
For a total of 85 #1 best-selling authors.
Wow.
20 of them are #1 international.
Right.
And 29 total international best-selling authors. So 85 authors as a result of just taking that one step, literally running down the street to chase my dream.
Absolutely. I want to go back and let people know that at that time you were working at South by Southwest. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you were, and tell them what magnitude you were working. You were not.
Oh no, I was. During that time, I was actually working security. I was working in security detail at a restaurant. So South by Southwest, it's a big event. A lot of people come in for different reasons. You have artists, you have people that come in for the education sector, people that come in for the tech sector. I was working at one of the restaurants, just making sure that the crowds were staying out and not just keeping the restaurant too busy. So I wasn't in the capacity that I'm in now.
Right. You weren't speaking, you weren't educating, you didn't have your programs. I wanted people to know that's how you started. When you went and you saw your friend, you saw the motivational speaking, you went forward and consistently you kept doing exactly what he told you as your mentor. Yeah. And also then you kept going.
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's something. That's a story right there. That's a good one. There's some more things that you have here. Not only motivational speaking, you have you're CEO of Claim Your Enterprises LLC, which focuses on the research. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Claim Your Destiny Enterprises LLC is my company. So my first book was called Claim Your Destiny.
Right.
And 3 years after I published that first book, I realized there's something bigger than this. So that's where Claim Your Destiny Enterprises came from. But it actually goes back even further than that. So here's one of those gut-wrenching moments where I had that come to Jesus meeting.
Right.
With Jesus. I was working at a job for a large Fortune 500 company. Won't put the company out there.
Right.
Helped a lot of people to move up in the company. Unfortunately, there was this glass ceiling that was so low for me, even though I was building and helping others. At the same time, I was in a relationship that wasn't going anywhere. I'm like, God, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, you've given me these skills, you've given me these talents. When I was in college, I helped to build an organization from the ground up. Here at this company, I've helped to build an organization from the ground up. I'm helping people move. I'm training the call center. I'm doing all these different things. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And he said, start writing. And when he said, start writing, I keep whiteboards everywhere in my house. And so I start writing youth programs, motivational speaking, conferences, books, and it's just this big list. He's giving me the
Right.
sponsor names. He's giving me the school names. He's giving me the places I'm going to be speaking. He's giving me like cities. I did what most of us do. I had that Moses moment, right? I was like, yo, that's too big for me.
Yes.
And I ran.
Yes.
But in that moment, that's where I knew that it was bigger than it wasn't just going to be Sugar Ray Destin Enterprises. It was a full, or Sugar Ray Destin LLC. It was a full set of companies that was coming from this one vision. And so that's where Claim Your Destiny Enterprises is. That's where it was birthed. And what we do is youth programs. We do the help people to become best-selling authors. Myself as a speaker. So that's a culmination of the different things that we do.
Absolutely. You also do leadership programs, I understand, that are part of that, mentoring, okay? College preparation. That's a huge thing, especially now.
Yes, sir.
During COVID. You know, probably really huge because many of the children, some are still online and not in school, and they don't have the counseling that they used to have to tell them, okay, these are the schools that we have available, things like that. So preparation.
Yes, absolutely. And so that is huge. We actually have the youth program in the rebuilding stage because, like you said, during COVID, everything shut down.
Right.
But I'll give you a glimpse of what the program looks like. So, and I'll give you some of the success stories. Obviously, the young lady who's an author
Right.
was one of the huge success stories from there. But at this point, some of the kids that started with us back in 2014 are now in their senior years of high school. A lot of them have already started receiving scholarship offers, whether it be for academics or athletics. But here's let me take it back a little bit. When I started the program, it started at rec centers because every time I would speak, I always ask the same question to kids, which more adults should start asking. And let me say it this way. Don't tell a kid just because he has a certain hue that he should be an athlete or he should be just leave it right there, that he should be an athlete or a musician. Because the question that I always ask is, what do you want to be?
Right.
And the top two answers that I always got was, I want to be an athlete. Now, my history goes back a little bit to growing up in the shadows of my sister. My sister's 9 years older than me, but her story is far more phenomenal than mine. I promise you, she's 5'7", but she's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 23-time All-American at the University of Texas at Austin. So that was what I had to pull from. So when kids said, I want to be an athlete, I'm like, okay, I remember my sister working out day in, day out. I remember the long nights and days that she was putting in. I remember all the effort. So the follow-up question is always, how much time do you practice? The response that I usually got was, well, coach makes us practice for like an hour. So probably about an hour. I was like, that's not going to cut it.
Right.
The next one was, I want to be a musician. Translation, I want to be a rapper. Right? So I would ask questions, and keep in mind, my mentor, Saul Paul, is a musician with a message. The dude has traveled the world with music, and he's a rapper that has a guitar, right? So when I ask that question, and they say I want to be a rapper, I'm like, okay, let me hear you flow. Let me hear some bars. And the response is usually, nah, I don't do that. I'm like, I got a plug to somebody that can take you to a completely different level, and you aren't taking the opportunity.
Right.
So that made me realize, wait a minute, these kids need that guidance. The reason that they're answering that question is not a bad answer if you're putting in the work. to become an athlete or a musician. That's not a bad goal. I know plenty of NFL players. I know plenty of people that have went to the NBA. I know plenty of people. I wasn't one of them. I'm 6'7", but I'm not one of them. But I know plenty of people. My cousin is Mr. 720, the first man in the world to ever do a 720 slam dunk. So I've been around the greatest of the greatest. So I don't think it's a bad aspiration to have, but you have to have the work ethic to match it. Right. So with the youth programs, what I did was I said, okay, the reason that they're giving this answer is not because they don't want it. They genuinely want it. But what have they been exposed to?
Right.
A lot of times the kids are sitting back and, daytime TV or even evening TV. Who do you see on TV that looks like you? You see the rappers, you see the ball players, you see these people who are living a quote unquote great lifestyle. And it's like, that's what I want. Because if you come from the communities where there's lack or where there's aggression from police, then your means of escape is one of three things. Either I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to be an athlete, or the alternative, I'm going to get into hustling. And what I realized is the reason that those are the only alternatives for most of these kids is because they haven't been exposed to engineers. They haven't been exposed to doctors. They haven't been exposed to lawyers. They haven't been exposed to the Cam Hills of the world. They haven't been exposed to authors. They haven't been exposed to all these phenomenal people that through my travels, I've had a chance to meet so many amazing people. And I said, here's what we're going to start doing. We're going to start asking questions that get them to start thinking about their goals.
Right.
Once they start thinking about their goals, now we can teach them how to set realistic goals. If you want to be an athlete, how much time are you putting in? If you answer an hour and you look and you see LeBron James is spending over $1 million a year on his body, not to mention the time that he's putting in the gym and in the weight room. If you want to be a musician, Lil Wayne, Baby would not let Lil Wayne start rapping for probably about 2 or 3 years. And all he made him do every day from the time he was about 12 until 14 was write raps. And it wasn't raps, it was write rhyme words. So it might be cat, hat, bat, that. This is what he did. And so I started teaching them to not only set goals for themselves, but set more realistic goals. And then we started looking at, okay, so what colleges do you want to go to? And the reason that I asked them about college is so that they can understand what you're getting now is what we call free education. When you start looking at college, your work ethic has to match. And one of the things that I love was I played this game with them, and it was called the cost of your decisions, right? So I'd always ask them, how much I want you to look up the college that you want to go to. Let's say they want to go to Harvard. They're looking up the cost of Harvard. They're looking up the cost of UT. They're looking up the cost of U of H. They're looking up the cost of TSU. And they're starting to see these aren't free. These aren't free schools. This is how much it actually costs. And so what I made them realize was, okay, you right now, and the kids that I was working with were the ones who were at risk. At risk to me just means misguided. They haven't figured themselves out. So I'd say, okay, how much is it for one semester? And I break that down. So this is how much it costs per semester. Let's say it's $30,000 per semester. Now, each class that you go to, if you have 15 hours, that breaks down to $2,000 per class that you're going to. Every class that you miss, let's break down how much that costs for each hour that you're missing or each minute that you're missing. When they started seeing those numbers, it started making a whole lot more sense to them. Wait a minute, I'm wasting time and I'm wasting money. The same kids who were always in ISS, in school suspension, or always on the verge of being suspended from school, now they went from C's and D's on their report card to AB honor roll, because now they've been exposed to something different. And not only have they been exposed to something different, but they're starting to see themselves different. Because while I'm teaching them about decision making and how to set goals, I'm also bringing in some of those great people, some of the people, the musicians, my mentor, the athletes, the doctors, the lawyers, the college professors, some of the people that were on the board of education in Austin. So when the kids started to see that, they started to see themselves in a different position. They didn't see themselves as, well, I'm darker than most, so the only person that I know that has a nice car is the dude down the street that's driving this fancy car and making the money illegally. Now I see this guy who came in who's a college professor. I see this guy who came in who trains athletes to get to the next level. I see this young lady who owns her own law firm. And they started to see themselves in a much different light.
Cool. Let's do this. We'll take a break and we'll be right back on the Cam Hill Show, Mr. Sugar Ray.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Celebrate the month of love with a well-appointed yet elegant SUV from Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 XT4 Luxury Collection for $319 a month, the new 2021 XT5 Luxury Collection for $399 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for $459 a month, all for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Amazing things for you.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, family, thank you so much for coming back. We are talking to Mr. Sugar Ray. Let's talk about some books. Let's talk about some of the books that you have.
What you got?
Let's talk about some of your books that you have first, and also let's talk about some of the bestsellers that you've come across. You actually take a book and you discuss this, but I've just known you. So many of the authors want to be a bestseller.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really their goal, and I understand why, because it seems both are authors. A person that's an author and a best-selling author, they both are authors. But in the worlds, or it seems like to the world, is a difference.
Absolutely.
Why so?
There's a level of credibility.
Right.
You know, there's a difference between saying that you were in the race and that you won the race.
Yes.
And so being a bestseller gives people that credibility when they are amongst others, amongst their peers, and even amongst other decision makers that says, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me not only did you write a book, which is in itself, writing a book, for most people that have never written a book, let me tell you, it may look easy. You may know friends and family that are now authors. That's long nights, early mornings, and a lot of restless nights birthing, because that's what people are actually doing. You're giving birth to a vision that's been sitting up here for so long. So for somebody to not only write that book, salute to all the authors out there, but to actually go on and sell that book, that's a completely different level. So the easy, hard part of the book writing process is writing it. The difficult part is selling it. And that's where the magic of becoming a bestseller gives people that credibility and that level of, wait a minute, there's more to the story than meets the eye.
I love the way you help people in doing that, because many of us don't know the information and we don't share it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's that old mentality of, if I share it with others, then they're gonna have my secrets and they're gonna be able to do what I do. The truth is, if we share with others, the pot just gets bigger.
Right.
Because when I first became an author, like I said, my first book is called Claim Your Destiny. And it was a not quick. It was actually 140 something pages.
That ain't quick.
That's not quick at all. And again, that goes back to late nights, early mornings. But that book was birthed out of pain. It's a motivational book that gives you step by step on becoming the best version of yourself. But the reason that it took me 5 years, I was comfortable. From 2010 to 2014, I was comfortable. I was at the job where the money was good. And again, something in me said, this is not where I want to be.
Right.
2014, my son's mom said, this is not where I want to be, because you chasing a different dream. Because I had left corporate America 2013, and it was rough.
Right.
So 2014, when she left, I came home one day after being with her for about 6 years, and I came home to an empty house. I can tell the story now with...
Wait. The house is empty.
She took all of her stuff. She took all of my son's stuff.
Right.
And just left a note that had 3 words on it. I'm so sorry. That's what I came home to.
Left that day. Let's go back. You left that morning. You're leaving. You're going to work.
I actually was working. I was working at Walmart overnight.
Okay.
And that was just temporary because things were really starting to pick up. So when I came home.
So you left the night before. And this is overnight.
This is overnight.
So you had no inclination, nothing was happening, never called. You come home that morning after working overnight to really an empty house.
To an empty house.
Just your things are there.
Just my things. And in that moment, like, I did what most people do. I'm like, okay, I see things are moved around. She's not answering her phone. When I saw the note, I just dropped. Yeah. Like, I just literally dropped to the floor, bawled like a baby.
Yeah.
But here's where the story gets better.
Yeah.
3 months later, that book it was like it just regurgitated out of me. So after that situation, all I could do was write.
Right.
And that's why I say it was birthed out of pain, because everything that I had in me, everything that I was holding back, just, I don't want to mess up the status quo. I just want to kind of be normal. I want to be like everybody else. God was like, nah.
Right.
You can't. Now is not the time. You have to give everything that you got. And that's what I did for that first book. Actually, and that was the book that created the programs from it. Created the youth programs, teaching them the different principles that were inside of it. The next book that I wrote, I got tired of hearing the same narrative over and over again. We listen to music these days, hip hop, R&B, whatever, and the connotations when it comes down to women is so negative.
Right.
We're not calling our women queens. We're not calling them, mothers. We're not calling them as the jewels that they are.
Right.
We're using alternative words. Right. And so my objective, like I said before, one of my loves is that I love writing poetry. So I wrote an entire book. And at first I was just going to call it Dedication to the Queen in You. And my accountability partner said, nah, you need something that's catchy, something that's going to catch the woman's. I said, sugar-coated? My first name, Sugar. Right. Sugar-coated. She's like, I love that. And that's the name of the second book. So Sugar-Coated Dedication to the Queen in You, which is a collection of poems dedicated to the beautiful beings that women are. Right. Reminding them, you're not B's and H's and all these things that you hear in the music. you are the ones that create generations. You are the ones that determine the direction that we go in as a people. So that was book number 2. And then the last book, which was a lot easier to write because I do it every day, it's called The Business of Books. And that's the book where I actually teach people how to write their books from beginning to end, not just writing it, but marketing it. Because the book itself, when most people come to me and they say, I just want to write a book, I want to write a book, I'm like, cool. What's your long-term vision for it, though? Because it's not that book itself that's going to give you massive income. It's the things that you can create from that book. There's the opportunity to speak, as we've talked about before, speaking engagements. People have created coaching programs because they've written books that actually share their expertise. So that $20 book, and if you're selling your book for anything less than $20, to all my authors out there, again, please reconsider, because people spending $20 one night or on 2 drinks.
Right.
Going to the night spot, $20, and it's like, oh, here you go. So the work that you put months into, you shouldn't be charging less than $20. But that $20 book can turn into $1,000, a $2,500, $5,000 speaking engagement, can turn into a course that you're sharing your expertise, where you're selling that course for $500, $1,000, $2,500, $10,000, depending on what you're speaking on and what you're sharing. There's programs, like I said, my youth program came from my very first book. So there's so many ways to make money from the book that it's a direct correlation to the book, but that book is just the key that unlocks the door to so much.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of the authors just think that selling their book, and they focus on just trying to sell the book to make a salary or make money, but don't realize they have such a huge pathway of other opportunities. I know we sat here and spoke about motivational speaking is huge, and they're able to leave something behind. That was a big thing.
Absolutely. That book is definitely a way to leave something behind, leave a legacy, because nobody can take your information once it's in that book without plagiarizing, or they have to leave your name whenever they're doing it. But the other thing is that book leaves that thing that's for so many people. There's people that have been through pain, and we'll talk about some of the authors that I've worked with. I've dealt with a lot of women who have overcome abuse, physical, sexual, mental abuse. I've dealt with one young man. When he first joined my program, he was still on probation. 6 months later, he was a #1 best-selling author.
Wow.
So that's another example. We have people that have talked about like Reggie Rusk. His book, he's helped hundreds of students to get into college and help them to achieve scholarships, over $400 million worth of scholarships. And he wrote what's called the Recruiting Playbook. He was actually the first author that we launched to Amazon #1. Our good friend, Nolan Davis. Yeah. Nolan Davis's book, the first book that he became a best-selling author, he's actually a 3-time I got to say it right. Nolan Davis is now a 3-time #1 best-selling author, and a #1 international best-selling author.
We got to make that right.
Yeah, we got to
be here.
We got to say it right. I ain't trying to have that fight with Nolan. But Nolan has actually took his book, the Bio Bootcamp, and is turning it into a series of, it's like a world tour that he's doing for the Bio Bootcamp. But it all started with the book. We've had people there was a group of guys from right here in Houston, phenomenal guys, the Rise of the Personal Brand, where they talked about social media marketing. They talked about branding. They talked about online marketing. They talk about SEO. They talked about all different aspects of business for entrepreneurs. A phenomenal book, and I recommend it to everybody. We had a young lady recently, Amira Palmer, and she's heavy into the skate world. And for those who don't know, the roller skating world, there's this huge international culture. And so she has 25 of the 25 top skaters that wrote their stories about their love for skating. And as a result, they're doing some big things with that book. So there's different projects that we've worked with, but it's about pouring your passion, what you've been feeling in your heart, and putting it out onto those pages. Or as they say, let your what did Jay-Z say? He said, I can't. Hey, wait a minute. He said I had to make the song cry. I can't, and it's crazy that I can't remember that verse right now. I know Nolan is sitting there laughing at me, like, you don't remember this song? Say, I can't feel the tears coming down my eyes, so I had to make the song cry. There it goes. And so for authors, what we do is we let our pens bleed for us. Right. We let those emotions out with our words. And here's the beautiful thing about being an author is that when you are truly transparent, and shout out to Carolyn Robinson, her phrase, transparency is the new healing. When you share your story from a place of truth, what ends up happening is that so many others are released from their bondage, whether it be, people right now, especially in these times, most people have been at home. Some people are at home with their abusers. Some people are at home not knowing where their next meal is coming from. Some people are at home just lost a loved one. And so when you write from a place of truth and you talk about those things that you've been through, and don't try to do what we've heard so many times before, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Right. When you let that pain out and you release it in a way that actually tells people, look, I went through hell and I don't look like what I've been through. Right. You can get past this too. At that point, that's when the magic happens. Right. That's when people start to say, I want more from you as an author. And when people start asking for more from you, that's when you start seeing more opportunities to speak, more opportunities to be at conferences, more opportunities. People will start coming to you for coaching because your book, somebody said it this way, there's 1 million speakers in this world, but the ones who are called to you know your voice.
Wow, now that's a good one.
Yeah, and so as an author, there's 1 million authors, and a lot of people are sharing similar stories. But it's the thing that you went through and the way that you told your story that makes a difference in somebody else's life. And that's what changes the world that we know.
Absolutely. I love that. And looking at that, your message, I understand, and reading everything, hope, passion, and unlimited potential is what you push and what you believe in. Why so?
Hope, because go back to a biblical principle. It says we glory in our tribulations, knowing that our tribulations bring about perseverance, and perseverance hope, and hope does not fail for the love of God that's given to us. So everything that we've been through provides us with this stronger sense of hope. You're always hoping for something more. If you don't have anything that you're hoping for and that you're working towards, you'll never get there. Perseverance. You have to persevere. Right. It does not matter. As they say, inch by inch, everything's a cinch, right? But if you try to eat an elephant all at once, you're not going to get it done. That's right. There's no way to do that. But if you knock at it, if you gnaw at it one piece at a time and just continue striking at it, then eventually you'll get there. And I've seen it my entire life. The people who were the most persistent, like I said, my sister, I told you the end of the story. Yeah. I didn't tell you the beginning of the story. The beginning of the story was she ran track right here in Houston, Texas, went to Houston Sterling and Dede Middle School, and graduated from Milby High School. But when she started running, she wasn't fast. She was just persistent. She was so persistent that's what got her through. I haven't always been the best writer. I haven't been the best coach, but I'm persistent at whatever I do.
Right.
And as a result, I see those results. I see how things change. What was the last one that you said?
Well, what we'll do, we're going to come back. We'll be right back on the Cam Hill Show, and we want to hear everything from Sugar Ray.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
I'm a part of the Prenatal Care Club now, taking all my STD tests.
Did you know your doctor's required by law to test you 3 times for syphilis and HIV?
Yes, my husband and I are making sure I get all 3 tests.
Good. Testing is the key to preventing congenital syphilis.
And good prenatal care is your first labor of love.
Glad to hear your husband is so involved.
Thank you. Yes, taking all my STD tests for syphilis is important to both of us. My prenatal promise is to prevent a stillbirth or miscarriage. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Amazing things for you. Celebrate the month of love with a well-appointed yet elegant SUV from Houston's exclusive Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT6 Luxury Collection with first-class seating for 7 for only $459 a month for 39-month lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Thank you so much for coming back. We're talking to Mr. Sugar Ray. We were picking up right there. We were just talking about message of hope, passion, and unlimited potential. That's what the other one was, unlimited potential. There you go.
That unlimited potential, I believe that everybody has access to unlimited potential.
Right.
And a lot of times we look around and we say, well, I don't have what they have. I don't have what that person have. I don't have what this person have. I can't do it because. And these days we have unlimited resources.
Yes.
You can learn everything from how to build a house to how to cook a snail if you wanted to. Right there on the internet from between Dr. Google and YouTube University, right? And it's not just that, but these are promises.
Right.
Like we've all been promised with God, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that everybody has unlimited potential.
Right.
It's just few of us tap into it.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that. You've done a lot of the programs and you've helped a lot of the authors along the way as far as your Mastermind program. And why was the Mastermind program so impactful, or why did you decide on it at the time?
I decided to create the Business of Books Mastermind program because it was a lack.
Yeah.
There was something that I saw that was missing. Like I said, a lot of people that were reaching out to me to write books were saying, well, how do I write a book? And I'm like, here's the simple steps. I can tell you how to write a book in less than 30 seconds.
Right.
Believe it or not, write an outline, write your chapter summaries, write. That's how you write a book, right? It goes back to writing your first essay paper. Nothing has changed. But what ends up happening is that people were leaving money on the table because most people are doing this. I got a book. How do I sell it?
Yes.
And it just sits there and it becomes this big old pile of dust that's just holding up your bookshelves. And I said, wait a minute, people need to know that there's other resources to sell your book. There's ways to sell your books as a speaker. There's ways to sell your book as a coach. There's ways to sell your book at conferences. There's ways to sell your book at vendors, at book signings. There's so many different opportunities, but it's also so much income that's being left on the table. And so sat back, did some thought in myself, and went back, looked at the youth program and said, wait a minute, what is it that these adults need to actually build their books out? And not just build their books out, but write their books and become successful afterwards. And that's where the Business of Books Mastermind program was birthed. It teaches everything from writing the book to marketing your book, building your brand, building your online presence, creating additional streams of income, the legal aspects of being an author. And then there's a few bonuses inside there that I won't touch on. But I made every author since August a promise that everybody that is coming through the program will also walk out of the program as an Amazon best-selling author.
Right. That's true. That's true. And that's what people have been wanting. That's what it has been. They've been needing, and they've been needing the information, just not knowing who to go to. That's
Absolutely.
huge. That is really huge right there. And what all have you learned along the way?
See, we'd have to reschedule like 10
exactly.
shows. I've learned so much.
Right.
So much if we talk on the life side, I learned how to dig within me to find out who I could really be. And I learned how to treat people better. Yeah. Because, when you first start out, there's a tendency to be a little bit rough around the edges. So I've learned to be a little bit gentler, because everybody doesn't come from that same, like I say it like this, I come from that dog mentality, right? If you want something, go get it. Make no excuses and leave nothing on the table. Everybody doesn't come from that. So some people you can say, go get it. You got this. Other people you have to say, well, you know what? I really see a lot of potential. Right. And you can do so much more if you. Right. So having that gentle touch. But on the business side, what have I learned? Learned more about invoicing. I've learned about setting up a proper structure. I've learned the importance of having a solid marketing plan for yourself. I learned the importance of, one of my friends says it this way, Ray Fawn. You turn Ray Fawn around, it's no fear. Right? So I keep that motto in the back of my head. You can't walk into a room if you want something with fear in your heart. Right. You have to have that mentality of, if I want this, you have to be as annoying to get to your goals as a newborn baby is. Yeah. And I say annoying because if anybody's ever had a newborn baby, it's, oh, this is such a beautiful baby. But when that baby is hungry, he's going, that baby is sleepy. He's going to fight it until he can't no more. But that baby is going to get your attention. As adults, we forget that simple principle. If you want something, make it known. Closed mouths don't get fed. What have I learned? I learned how to write more impactful books. Not just books, but impactful books, because people hide from their stories. And I've seen this with so many authors. When we first start out, they, so what's your story? Well, years ago, I did this thing. And what's your story? Right. What have you been through? Right. Well, I don't think people really want to hear that. Yes, they do. Talk about what you've been through, because what we're in now is such a microwave generation, and that microwave being, people want the end result, right? People want to be the next LeBron. They want to be the next Tom Brady, but they don't want to know about the work that goes into it. They don't want to know about those trials. They don't want to know about that, while I'm at the NBA championship, I'm losing a loved one who's on life support, and that's why I'm playing so hard. People need to know what it took to get to where you are. I've learned to celebrate people for where they are, because everybody is not going to be the next LeBron. Right. But they are the next them. You have to teach people to celebrate themselves. Right. And I've learned to celebrate the small victories. Yes. One thing that I love doing, and anybody that knows me, is I'll go and just have some pho. Vietnamese soup. And I may be saying the wrong pho for those who are prepper. Right. But that's my celebration meal. Right. Every once in a while when things are going right and I feel a new level coming, I just go sit and have a bowl of pho.
Yeah.
And so you have to reward yourself along the way. And don't think of it as a destination, because once you get to this certain level that you're chasing, you'll realize there's another level, and then there's another level. So enjoy the journey, enjoy the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between, because that's what makes it beautiful. Some of the most difficult moments in life are the ones that we're like, I would never. But then when you look back in life, you're like, even though we were struggling, that ramen noodle soup was good. Remember when we used to sit back and watch BT Midnight Love?
Right,
And it's like that was the only thing that we had on TV. We didn't have all the Netflix and the Hulus and all that. But it's celebrating those small things and learning to smile and laugh every day during the journey. And don't just get so caught up on where you're going. Enjoy where you're at.
I think you've already said it, so look into the camera. I think you've already said it. Look into your camera here. And what would you like to leave with the viewers, and how can they get in touch with you?
I would like to leave the viewers this. Remember that everybody has a story. Most people get so caught up and so confused in their story isn't someone else's, but your story is your story. Everything that you've been through, everything that you have experienced in life, you experienced it for a reason, because only you could have made it out of that situation. Only you could have gone through that abuse that you did, whether it be physical or sexual. Only you could have been the one to break that glass ceiling at your job. Only you could have been the person who broke those records in the time that you did. Only you could have seen death, looked it in the face, and walked out with a smile on your face as though nothing happened. There's a reason that you have everything that you've been through. There's a reason, and the world needs to hear your story. Not only does the world need to hear your story, but the world needs to celebrate you for the victories that you've already endured, the things that you've endured and the things that you've overcome. I would love to connect with you. My name is Sugar Ray Destin Jr. You can come to our website, www.businessofbooksmastermind.com. businessofbooksmastermind.com. Let's set up an appointment and let's see how we can make you a best-selling author as well.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much, buddy,
Yes,
for
sir.
everything you're doing, everything you have done. Thank you for the opportunity of today and opportunity to talk to our viewers. I appreciate you.
Amen.
Hey, family, we're daily, 12:30, 1:30 Central Standard Time. See you then. Bye.